Hello, everyone. Welcome to Washed Up. This week we have a special guest, Edward Meshell, who's a colleague of mine and also the host of the Probably Soccer podcast. And we are going to be talking about the World Cup that is going on right now and some of the matches that he thinks that we should be paying attention to. In full disclosure, I am not a sports person. I've never really been. Back when I used to work at the student paper, I'd have to kind of cobble together the sports section at times, and that would be the bane of my existence because I don't understand it. That's why we're bringing in an expert, Eddie, who can help explain what's going on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Colin. Really excited to be here and talk World Cup, talk sports. It's always a fun side project. Obviously, I've got Probably Soccer. Go subscribe, go follow us on Instagram at Probably Soccer Pod. And yeah, really excited to dive in with you.
So, what are some of the matches that have already taken place? And this is happening, being hosted in the US. Has that happened in recent memory?
Yeah, so this World Cup is actually being hosted not only in the US, but it is co-hosted between Canada, the USA, and Mexico. And the last time the USA hosted was 1994. So it's been 32 years since we last
Wow.
hosted the World Cup. And the game of soccer has grown a lot since 1994, the last time we hosted. So it's pretty cool seeing the juxtaposition of World Cup in 1994 versus World Cup in 2026. So it's very recent hosting compared to other countries repeating. But yeah, it's pretty exciting to see the three countries that have been hosting.
And so right
Uh,
now they're in sort of this like tournament phase of it. Am I right? Where also like correct me if I'm wrong throughout any of this conversation, because like I said,
yeah,
this is
for sure.
not my
Yeah.
mode of expertise. But so they're holding events around Canada, US, Mexico, leading up to like the final match, which I think is in New Jersey. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, it's at New York, New Jersey Stadium,
Okay.
aka New Jersey. MetLife Stadium is the like what we would know it as in America. But FIFA doesn't allow corporate sponsored stadiums. And so all of these stadiums that were part of the pitches for different countries to or different cities to host these stadiums that have corporate sponsorships. So MetLife in Dallas or Arlington, Texas is AT&T Stadium. That's known as Dallas Stadium for right now. So they had to actually cover up their sponsorships on the stadiums in
Hmm.
order to host. And so it's at New York, New Jersey Stadium. But more broadly, right now, so it kicked off on Thursday, and we're in the group stages. So what happens for the first time, the World Cup is 48 teams instead of 32 teams, and so they're in groups of four. So I guess it's 12 different groups, 12 times 4, 48. And they're lettered. So Group A, Group B, Group C. America's in Group D this year. So there's four teams in each group. You play each team once in group play. So everyone, no matter who makes the tournament, plays at least minimum 3 games. And so it's a very big deal for FIFA to expand it because for the first time ever, there are a few countries that made it. So, for example, Curacao, island of 150,000, made their first ever World Cup this year, and they
Wow.
played Germany today and got obliterated 7-1. Which brings up the conversation that some people have been having of was expanding to 48 teams worth it? But so we have group play right now. It's creating opportunities like that. It's really fun just watching a team like Curacao play. And when they scored that goal, it tied the game, actually. It was electric. I was at lunch with some buddies and I watched them score and I was like, oh my gosh, they just scored. And I was losing my mind. Um, so after group play, the way that it works is in soccer specifically, they do like a point system. So if you win, you get 3 points. If you tie, you get 1 point. If you lose, you get 0 points. And so the top two teams in each group automatically advance. And then eight of the 12 third place teams based on points and then based off of goal differentials. So whoever has more goals compared to how many goals were scored against will advance to the knockout stages. So similar to like a March Madness, it'll be round of 32, round of 16, or quarterfinals. And then it's quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the final at MetLife Stadium. So it's
Gotcha.
group play and then tournament more broadly. A lot of moving parts, but it's awesome because there are so many games to where, we watched Canada and Bosnia together on Friday at the office, which was fun. And then I got to go have dinner, and then I went to a watch party to watch USA play, which was just super fun. And so, like today, there's a game at 1, there's a game at 4, there's a game at 7, and a game at 10. And so every day, especially in group play, it's just like 4 games per day, every 3 hours. And as a sports fan, I love it so much.
Yeah, it's great. And like you said, it's great for fans of soccer who have keep
Mhm.
up with it, who love to watch back-to-back matches, but also great for people who are not so familiar with it. Like you said, we watched that Canada-Bosnia match together, and it was still really fun, even though I didn't really understand all of it or all the mechanics of like the tournament and how it works. But it is good to know how all that works. And like you said, the international nature of it is really interesting, I think. Like how many other international sport events do we have other than like the Olympics, World
Mhm.
Cup? Are there any other ones, or is that kind of it?
Biggest one that I can think of is World Baseball Classic. And then also sometimes like last year, the NHL during their international break did or during their All-Star break, instead of like the typical All-Star game, they did like a four nations face-off, which is not as big of a scale as a World Cup. But I think the biggest, especially for our American brain, sort of to comprehend is would be the World Baseball Classic, which happens every 3 years, I believe.
Gotcha. And do you know how they decided that the US was going to be the host country this time around? Was it just kind of arbitrary, or I'm
Yeah,
sure this.
very similar to like Olympics, sort of like, you do a whole proposal, you're submitting that to in the Olympics case, it'd be the International Olympics Committee, IOC. I think that's what it stands for. Could be wrong there. The IOC, and then for in this case, it would be presenting to FIFA on why you should host. And so they announced that we were hosting in 2018 at the World Cup there. So similar to the Olympics, it's you get announced pretty much two World Cups down the line. And so
Yeah.
2030 is a mixture of like Spain and Portugal, and they're hosting the opening match in Uruguay, who hosted the first World Cup in 1930. So
Wow.
sort of three different countries hosting their two different continents, which is kind of crazy. But yeah.
Okay, very cool. And our audience is probably wondering, how is the US doing in the early games? Are they outperforming, underperforming? What do you project for them?
So crazy performance on Friday. It was a game that we were expected to win, obviously. But we ended up winning 4-1 against Paraguay. And Paraguay is a South American team. South America, for those who don't know, is very soccer. Like they love soccer there. Like, Argentina's there, who won the last World Cup. Brazil's there, who is, I think, won the most World Cups of any country. Um, and then, just they love soccer in that region of the world. And so while they're not like Argentina or Brazil, you still have to play those teams to qualify for the World Cup. And so they're a pretty good team. Um, and we won 4-1. My expectation was like 2-1, 3-1 maybe. I was not expecting 4-1. The first half was probably one of the more perfect soccer halves I've watched. I got into soccer a year ago, and so I don't have the most experience watching soccer, but just in the time that I have and I've gotten into it, that is probably the best like half, more perfect half I've watched for our team. And so they are exceeding expectations. We play Australia this Friday, and I think they're sort of the sleeper of our group of doing well. So I think we'll end up drawing them like 1-1, maybe get out a 2-1 win. But with how big of a win it was, we should at this point, as long as we draw either Australia or Turkey, we should advance to the knockout stages. So it's looking
Nice.
pretty positive. And best part of the World Cup is its home field advantage. Like, it was at Los Angeles Stadium, or as we would know it, SoFi Stadium, and it was probably 85% stars and stripes in the crowd. Like it was awesome.
That is interesting, and in my undergrad I got a psych degree, and I took a class on
Mhm.
like sports psychology, and we had to talk about the home field advantage a little bit, and it seems like there was a slight like it is a legitimate phenomenon that you can study, and there's a slight advantage people get, but it's not really clear, is it coming from like the familiarity with the context of like maybe they've played at these stadiums before, or is it
Mhm.
the supportive crowd and audience that like eggs them on? Seems like the home field advantage probably had something to do with, again, like familiarity of the setting of where you're playing and how that somehow, I don't know, reduces the cognitive load or something of playing these matches. But very interesting. Are there any star players on the American side that like we should be watching really closely?
Yeah, so the obvious one, he's been a star for a while, but Christian Pulisic, he currently plays for AC Milan over in Italy. He's played in the Premier League at places like Chelsea, and then he started out in Germany at Borussia Dortmund. So three very big European clubs. Um, and so he's sort of been like like I saw a meme this morning that showed Chum Lee from Pawn Stars from a few seasons ago, and someone had like a signed Christian Pulisic Chelsea jersey, and it had a quote of him saying he's kind of like the LeBron James of soccer, which is kind of funny. I wouldn't go that far, but he's sort of been like our like USA Wonder Boy for a few years now, and so he's kind of been like people look up to. So he's the obvious answer. I will say in the game on Friday. Colin, you'll find this story really interesting. I should have texted you about this. One of our players got a brace, which means 2 goals in one game.
Oh,
His name is Florin, or just Flo Balogun, and he actually is only an American citizen because of birthright citizenship.
oh, interesting.
So he is actually English. His mom, when she was pregnant with him, was in Brooklyn for something, and some airline worker or something was like, "Hey, you don't have the proper paperwork or whatever," and so she got stuck in America.
Huh.
Had Flo had Balogun in Brooklyn, and he lived there for 2 months before moving to England. And now he plays for the U.S. men's national team, and in his World Cup debut, scored 2 goals to lead us to a 4-1 victory. And so, because of birthright citizenship, he was able to play for the U.S. men's national team. And
Wow.
so, he is a really exciting, fun player to watch. Um, I was excited going into the tournament to watch him, and then after his performance on Friday, like he is really fun to watch. On the defensive end, Chris Richards had a perfect passing game where like he completed 84 out of 84 passes without Paraguay intercepting his passes. So he's from Birmingham, and me being from Texas, I love those Southern boys. And so he's always just really fun to watch. He plays for Crystal Palace in the Premier League in England. So it's just really interesting. I think this is more than ever. We have the most guys that play for top European teams. Think like if someone from Europe comes to America to play for the NFL or the thing NBA right now, how many people are playing from like Wimby is from France. Those European stars that are coming over to America to play for the NBA, more than ever, we have soccer stars going over to Europe to play for the top teams there. And so it's just really cool seeing how that has affected the growth of the game in America and also the growth and expertise of our national team on the men's side.
Yeah, that is very interesting, and I really like the story about the birthright citizenship and how that allowed him to play for the U.S. Because I believe SCOTUS is debating that right now with Barbara
Hmm.
v. Trump. Like they're
Hmm.
trying to decide is birthright citizenship going to stand? Most people think that it will, but that's kind of a good example there of why it's important and it matters. And I like also what you're saying about again the mixing of culture that happens as a result of these tournaments and sports in general where yeah, the US stands to benefit quite a bit from having like the open ability for people to come and go from Europe, and like you said, the way that the cultural element of the sport transforms as a result of
Hmm.
that is really interesting. I think sports are just one example of that. There's many things like that, like trade and
Hmm.
you know, the free exchange of ideas that the U.S. stands to benefit a lot from. So that's kind of just more like political take on it. But anyway, so what's the next match that the U.S. is going to be playing? Do you know?
Yeah, so we play on Friday, so Juneteenth, so everyone should be off of work. No excuse not to watch. Colin, if you're in DC, I'm making you come to a watch party with me.
I'm gonna be in LA,
Um,
unfortunately.
oh, um, but it's on Friday, Juneteenth, 3 o'clock Eastern time, so pretty normal time. The one on Friday was at 9 p.m. Eastern time, which was kind of crazy for me. I'm kind of an old man when it comes to sleep. Um, but it's at 3 p.m. and we play Australia, which that was kind of my pick going into the World Cup. Once we got our group, I was like, Australia's gonna be sneaky. So I'm interested to see how this game goes. I think we get a draw like 1-1. Maybe I could see us losing. I could see us winning. So it kind of just goes a little bit of every way. So Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. For your West Coast listeners, I think that's noon.
Okay.
Noon
So
for
okay,
you when you're
Australia,
in
I
LA.
forgot you had mentioned that Australia, and then who else is like in our group that we have to play?
Turkey.
Turkey. Okay.
Yeah, and that'll be the 25th, so next Thursday, and that's at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Thankfully, I'll be in Texas for a wedding, so that'll be 9 p.m., which will be a little bit better on my sleep schedule.
Okay, well, great. How about the other matches to watch? Maybe not the US, but just other countries in general. I've heard Colombia v Portugal mentioned.
Yeah.
Are there any other matches that are like t top competitors facing off and what's expected to be just like an overwhelming powerhouse game?
Yeah. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I wish I had like a list. I think more so countries to watch. We'll go there just because I don't have
Yeah.
I should know off the top of my head, but don't for some reason. I obviously Argentina. This is so one thing to comment on this tournament. This is sort of the last tournament for some big names. So Messi, one of like the greatest soccer players. He is the greatest soccer player of all time, like literally the GOAT. So him and Argentina, they're defending their title. They play this Tuesday against Algeria, which we need to revisit Algeria. Put that on a shelf. I have a
Okay.
great anecdote for you about culture coming to America and the mixing of cultures.
Gotcha.
So put that on a shelf. I want to tell you about that. They play Algeria on Tuesday. So I'm excited to watch Argentina. Germany absolutely whooped today, so they're sort of up there. Another guy who this is probably his last World Cup, definitely is Ronaldo, who plays for Portugal. So like you mentioned, Portugal and Colombia, that'll be a great game. But Portugal is sort of in the favorite conversation to win. But with this being Ronaldo's last World Cup, it'll be interesting just to see how they do. I'd say kind of the two outright favorites right now for the World Cup. Like if you like watch any country, I would watch them. France, who's got Mbappe is sort of their big name. They've won a few times the World Cup, and I think they'll be really fun to watch. And then Spain is in the conversation. They've got a young, I believe he's like 18, 19 years old, Lamine Yamal, which is funny. Spain is actually training in Chattanooga, Tennessee for this World Cup,
Oh,
which I've been to Chattanooga, and it's
probably hot right now if I had to guess.
very hot. They're literally training with like ice vests on to keep them cool. Chattanooga's like, I mean this in the nicest way possible, a little bit of a shithole. But they're training at like a really nice like private high school in the middle of nowhere, Tennessee. And so I saw a tweet of Lamine Yamal, who is like a superstar in soccer right now. He literally went to a Walmart to go shopping, and it was just like him in the wild, which is just so funny.
It's
Like,
probably a bit of
especially,
culture shock for sure.
yeah, for him, but also like I think it was in rural Georgia. So like those people aren't going to know who Lamine Yamal is. Like the people in the South don't really care about soccer, so they're not going to know who this guy is. They're just going to think it's like, oh, cool, another European in town for the World Cup. You know, they're just exploring American culture, and so it's just kind of funny. Like you know that meme that's like, what the hell is a polar bear doing in Arlington, Texas? It was kind of that vibe of like, what is Lamine Yamal doing in a Walmart in rural Georgia?
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
memes the memes have been immaculate. I also saw
yes.
on social media a little bit about like when we had a German Pope, the Germans won the World Cup. When
Mhm.
Pope Francis was Pope, I guess maybe Argentina won. So now
Yeah,
they're saying, well,
Argentina.
we have an American Pope with Pope Leo.
Come on, come on.
Maybe that'll be what does it, or somehow we'll get a U.S. Win here.
I hope so. I love Pope Leo. I know you do too. You know, you grew up Catholic, so if Pope Leo brought us a World Cup championship, that would do numbers for the
For the
growth of the
church.
game, for the church, and then the growth of the game in this great country, which I think this World Cup, there's been a lot of hype leading up to it, but I genuinely think it'll be a catalyst for growing the sport of soccer in this country, if I'm being totally honest.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, there's probably like you said, there's going to be people traveling to the U.S. from Europe and other places. Do you think that that's going to have an impact on like the states here and the economics of all of it too is kind of a factor because there's so
Mhm.
much probably money injected into like preparing for the tournament and I don't know, do you foresee any kind of boom coming out of this? Like I'm thinking of like when
So
Taylor Swift had her Eras tour, it like changed
yeah,
the whole GDP of the country or something.
yeah, I would say short term, yes, long term, really kind of not that big of a difference. So one thing about leading up to this World Cup is FIFA had outrageous pricing for the games, like just insane prices to where it's like it's really hard to get out here and go to a game. I really wanted to go to at least one game, but it's just like the cheapest ticket for a nosebleed for Curacao versus Ivory Coast is $350 right now. And I would much rather, spend that money on something else I enjoyed doing, a little like opportunity costs, kind of vibe. But obviously there's hotels coming in, that'll make money. There's airline industry making money, the stadiums will make a lot of money. But I think FIFA is making a lot of money off of this too, of just how they've priced it, how, they've had all these regulations and things to make it happen. Um, but I think more so, I don't know how much you've been on Twitter for the past week, but it's been really cool seeing all of these Europeans and people from other countries as well. Like it's not only Europe. I've seen it Japanese folks. I've seen South Americans coming up to America for the games, seeing their reactions to like American culture of like I don't know if there's this dude from Germany. His name's Freddie, and he's on Twitter. And he started it off just kind of going all around the Southeast. So like he went to Auburn, he went to Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Louisiana, and now he's in Houston because Germany played there today. But like he was just documenting, he's like, what the hell? This is a gas station when he was at a Bucky's. He was like driving through like a normal suburban neighborhood in Georgia, and he was like, this is a normal neighborhood in Gainesville, Georgia. Like these houses are so huge, and it's like a normal like middle class house in the South. And he was like, this is just like insane. Like seeing the world, seeing our world that we see every day and that we're used to through the eyes of this German that's like, especially like being pretty familiar with the Southeast, being from Texas. Like he literally drove through my hometown to get to Houston. Like when he was
Hmm.
coming from, through Louisiana on I-10 up to Houston. I was like, oh, Freddie's going through my hometown. I wonder if he's going to stop. And he didn't, unfortunately. But
Yeah, so the
um,
cultural exchange and the culture shock of it are really entertaining as well, in as much as the games are entertaining and fun to experience. But okay, you mentioned Algeria. I've taken it off the shelf. What's the story there?
so so because I was telling you about Spain, how they're training in Chattanooga,
Uh-huh.
Algeria, who qualified, they are training in Lawrence, Kansas, which is a Midwest city, excuse me, college town where the University of Kansas is, and the the whole city has just embraced this Algerian team. It's awesome. So last week they had an open. A lot of these teams are having like open trainings, and you have to like get a ticket and everything, and like it's only like you just watch them train and that's it. But this Algerian team, they not only had their open training, but the University of Kansas like pep band showed up and they learned the Algerian national anthem and played the Algerian national anthem to open up practice, and then like played like and then they played like pep band songs throughout to like bring the American culture into this like Algerian training camp. And afterwards, they held a like soccer camp for the local kids. And so these local kids in Lawrence, Kansas got to train with the Algerian national team and like learn soccer and the culture exchange there. And so where um University of Kansas, they're like saying it's like rock chalk Jayhawk. And so like random residents, there's a video and it was like, this World Cup is creating sentences that have never been said before. And so there's some resident who goes, rock chalk Algeria. So where now like people were joking, it's like we got to be careful. Like they went to Kansas's basketball stadium, which is a very historic stadium in college basketball. I'm blanking on the name, and but they went to like go check it out, and someone quote tweeted it and was like, "We've got to be careful before the University of Kansas plays one of their games in Algeria this next season." And so it's just cool seeing Algerian citizens like be on Twitter and being like, "Thank you for embracing our team. We love Lawrence, Kansas. Like we are going to support your teams no matter what." And then the city of Lawrence, who on my podcast today, I was talking about this and I was joking, like they probably had no clue this country existed before they decided to come train here. And now they like love Algeria, which is just so random, but like awesome. And so
Yeah, that's
this like
awesome.
combination of cultures, like all these people coming to America, they're training here, but then also like the towns are really embracing these teams as they're training here. And it's like finding a new country or, finding different ways to get bought into the World Cup outside of just like, oh, World Cup in America, let's support the American team, you know?
Yeah, those anecdotal stories I think are great and some of the best of what is to come out of the World Cup and like maybe even those kids can aspire to something that they never even had the awareness of or
Mhm.
thought like maybe I could be that someday. And so it's great. I think being able to watch sports on TV for kids is a very aspirational thing. So hopefully they got something out of that. Um, but I wanted to mention, so there's positive cases of this cultural exchange happening.
Mhm.
There's also been some news headlines about referees coming to the US who got blocked and had to go back. Do you know anything about what's going on there?
Yeah, so obviously we've been talking about a lot of the positives of this World Cup. There's so many good things coming out of it, cultural exchanges. Europeans who were dogging on American culture are now like, wow, these stadiums are really cool. And so there's like so many positives. But also just, as with any major tournament, there are some political things going on. So, for example, I think the biggest story that anyone's probably seen on the news is there was a referee that was supposed to ref during the World Cup, and he was supposed to be, I think, the first African ref, or maybe it's either the first or the
Yeah, it
only
looks like
African
he's
ref
from
for,
Somalia,
yeah, and he's from
Umar Artan.
Somalia. Yeah, he's from Somalia, and so if you follow the news, obviously Somalia has been kind of, not seen very lightly by the current administration, to where his visa to come work was denied, and the State Department is citing it that saying that he has connections with terrorists, which obviously we don't have the full story, so I can't speak to if that's fully true or fully not, but when it comes to thinking of the point of a tournament like this is, putting diplomacy aside, it helps people come together. People are coming here to play the beautiful game. He's coming to ref. And so like, sure, like maybe he actually did, and this is like totally the right thing to do. I don't know. But the way that it looks, it's like, in light of recent events, maybe it's just, the current administration being the current administration, not to give my views too quickly. But I'm sure you and Abby y'all never shy away from,
Nah,
things like that.
let it rip.
Um, and so that's like sort of the biggest story. But now, so he's still in Somalia. He wasn't able to, get approved. And sort of the positive side of this story is UEFA, which is the European Confederation that is over all of the European competitions, both domestically and internationally. So like they do like Champions League, but they also cover like in America, we have to go through CONCACAF to qualify for the World Cup. UEFA does it for Europe, and their biggest two domestic cups, like between countries, are the Champions League, which is like the best teams from Premier League, best teams from Germany, best teams from Spain, and then pretty much all across Europe. They outside of their normal seasons, they play each other, and there's a champions. There's the Champions League, and then Europa League is kind of like second tier. So like the second best teams in those leagues play against each other, and those get crowned. And then they have what they call the Super Cup, which is kind of at the beginning of every season that starts in the fall. The winner of the Champions League and the Europa League play each other, and the winner of that is the winner of the Super Cup. So UEFA actually offered this guy, said, "Hey, come and referee for that game," which is a very big deal. It's a sort of more positive aspect coming out of that. Um,
Yeah.
is UEFA sweeping in and saying, "Hey, come ref one of our biggest games that we do every single year." Granted, it's not the World Cup, which is like kind of like the crowning achievement, but he does get to go and ref one of the bigger games in Europe. So
Well, that's
that's
cool.
that's definitely like the biggest political related news story with this World Cup. Iraq, when they entered into America, they were detained, not detained, I don't think that's the word. They were stopped at the airport for like 6 hours being questioned. I'm blanking on which player it was, but just another, example of not going
Uh,
so smoothly
wasn't
when,
there was something with Iran where they were not allowed to enter the US at all? They had to go, I heard this from you. They had to go to
yeah.
Mexico for all their practices and then go enter the US to play the game and then immediately leave. Is that right?
Yeah, so I can't remember if they were originally supposed to train in America, but definitely they switched to training in Tijuana, which is directly across the border. I mean, that's San Diego, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So like you're pretty familiar, you know.
Mhm.
Shout out USD.
Shout out
Um, shout out to the what was your newspaper called?
the Vista.
Shout out to the Vista. You're washed up journalists. So
Yeah.
so they're training in Tijuana, but for all their games, they can't enter into America until the day of the game, which normally teams will train in a certain city, but then like 2 or 3 days before their game, usually two, would go to that city, stay in a hotel there, train there, just sort of get acclimated in things before going to the game. So Ron has to travel day of to the city, get off, play the game, and then fly back or get back to Tijuana. And so which
Wow.
creates this puts you at a huge disadvantage playing wise because we were talking about home field advantage earlier, and part of home field advantage is like you're at home, you don't have to worry about traveling too much. And now Iran, who
Yep.
already doesn't have home field advantage, they're playing in a country that obviously is at war right now with them, and now when it comes to just playing and enjoying the game that they came here to play, it's just really hard to be able to play at your best ability when you're having to travel day of. You literally like land, really probably not much time to train, go play a game, and then immediately have to fly back. No time to like cool down, get used to it, prep, do
Yeah,
things
that's
like that.
brutal.
And so it's just the political aspects of having to do that. And then I think a few of their technical staff got denied visas too, just based off of different things. And so you're at a disadvantage there of not having all of your staff and coaching. So yeah, there's definitely been more political things there of just, and I might be missing a few stories, but those are definitely the biggest ones of like, come on, like me, I'm like, come on, guys, like this tournament is like it's not like they're sending their whole country here. It's their players. They're here to play. Let's let them come. Like sure, maybe we need to put them on not put them on lockdown, but like maybe like just keep an eye out. Like make sure they're not doing anything, but still just let them come, let them play, and then make them go home. Like they're not going to all stay here. They probably don't want to stay here. They probably want to go to their home country after playing for their home country. So yeah, there's lots of moving parts and different political stories, and it's only day 4 of the tournament, so I'm sure more
Wow.
are going to pop up as the tournament gets going for the next like 5 weeks.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us. We have about 5 minutes left, so I just wanted to say thank you, first of all. But this has been great talking about some of the benefits of the tournament and the World Cup with the economic side of things and the cultural exchange and some of the negatives and the geopolitics that it's highlighting, also with the immigration stuff and the war and all of that. It's very interesting how all of that kind of culminates and comes together. When is the final match supposed to be at the New York, New Jersey Stadium? Do you know?
Yeah, so it's July 19th. I think it's at like 3 p.m. Eastern. So
Okay.
it's June 14th. So we got over a month left, and there's pretty much soccer being played every single day. So there's literally always something to tune in for.
Great. And just to conclude our episode here, I wanted to give a quick shout out to the Knicks who won for their first championship in
Come on.
53 years. Another New York, New Jersey tie-in there. So I've heard it's chaos in the city. Some people even
Yes.
getting like shot and getting in fights. I don't know, but good for them for winning that title.
Yeah, I'm fired up for him. I think it's really awesome. I'm a Houston sports fan first and foremost, and so I hate the Spurs, the fellow Texan team. So I despise them.
Okay, I have a little
And
bit of lore I have to drop. My grandma, her cousin was Greg Popovich, the,
what?
the Spurs coach. Okay, not her first cousin, but it was her aunt's nephew, and they like lived in the same area of East Chicago, Indiana. So this is like crazy tie-in, but
How did I not know this?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But is he
What in
still
the
the Spurs
world?
coach or no?
No, 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 no.
Okay,
I think he's like some. He's old and dealing with strokes and things, so he's definitely stepped back from coaching. That's
gotcha.
crazy. How come I didn't know that? Come on,
Well, some
Colin.
lore here at the end of our episode.
Yeah.
But very exciting for the Knicks and New York, and yeah, very, very grateful for you for joining us, and all of our subscribers should go check out Probably Soccer and your Instagram. And yeah, we appreciate it. anytime we have a sports story coming up, we'll hopefully be able to bring you back
Come
on
on.
and help enlighten us a little bit, as neither Abby nor I are that super well versed in sports.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But
I'm always happy to hop back on.
it's also great to be able to look at the sports from like the cultural side also with like the celebrities who will go to the games and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
So I'm sure people have been talking about like how Taylor Swift was at the Knicks game
Oh
and all
yeah.
that.
Yeah, 2 weeks after she was at a Cavs game, but we don't talk about that.
All right, well, thank you so much. And that is it for this week. Washed
Nice.
up out.